All right. I
Okay,
believe we are live, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
We are. Welcome everybody. Tell them who we are, Sam.
All right. I am Sam Shukavage, and with me is my father, David Shukavage, the president and founder of Carolina Retirement Planners. And hey, Dad. And we have a special treat for y'all this week. For the first time in Happy Half Hour history, we have let Amy have the week off. She through all of her vacations, she has come on here and stayed with us, zooming next to the pool, dutifully. But she's on a plane right now up to Maine, taking a real vacation
Or
from the
hopefully
happy
it's
half hour.
cooler. Yeah,
We're
we usually
hopefully
keep
it's
her chained
cooler.
to her laptop, but we're letting her off this time.
Yes. And today we have the lovely Kristen Owen, who is running the show today. So
Hi
hey,
guys.
Kristen. And you may have seen her training on some of our past happy half hours. If you are a client, you may have seen her in the office, have gotten to work with her. She's been with us just over a year now, right? Or almost a year.
Absolutely. I just hit my anniversary on the 13th of last month.
Woo! So,
Eyes when you're having fun.
mhm.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Uh, Today is an exciting day. We decided to go ahead and bring you uh, a take two, deeper dive of inflation, which is on everyone's mind. Not really a fun topic to talk about, but it's a really pertinent topic to talk about. So we're going to get to that
We're
here.
going to make it fun. If you look hard enough in anything, especially when it comes to the government, you can find some fun in there somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've all heard of the Fed. You're forever hearing the Fed's meeting, and the thing you hear is the Fed right now is they're raising rates, right? And the question a lot of people have is, well,
Who's the Fed and
yeah,
what rates are they
yeah,
raising?
who's the
What does
Fed
this
and
mean?
what rates are these? So we thought it would be fun to kind of go in and look at it in a little more detail and look some of the stories behind the stories and things like that. So
Mhm.
so that's what our topic is today. Should we plunge in? We
Oh,
can we
well,
can maybe.
well, we do. It's also, wait, don't skip it. We have a really exciting day today. We always like to talk about what day it is. And we let Chris, every day there is um, a like a list, a whole slew of national days. And in honor of Kristen stepping in, we let Kristen pick her favorite out of the list. So Kristen, what day is it today?
Today is National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day.
Oh man,
It's a classic. You could also change it up. I've heard lots of recipes from your guys' emails. I'm so excited to try some.
I have a great chocolate chip cookie song I learned from Bill Steele, literally in 1976 at a coffee house in Cornell. Can I sing it?
No,
It'll go on. It's a lot of verses. We could spend
no,
8
no,
everybody to get their name in.
no.
I know. No, you sure?
I think
Great
we'll be
song.
fine. I think we'll be fine. We got some good responses today about people's favorite kinds of chocolate chip cookies. Um, my personal favorite is one that has like the big chocolate chunks in it too. So it's just like really big and gooey chocolate, one that's like very fresh and hot and wonderful. Um, some other ones that we got are some people like peanut butter, a pecan one with semi-sweet chocolate, and cinnamon oatmeal coconut pecan chocolate chip. And I hope that Jane, you do send us that recipe. We do want that for sure. Oh, somebody says that it's not chocolate chip, but Oreo's their favorite cookie. So we got lots of responses.
There's probably oatmeal lovers out there too. You know, if it was between oatmeal and chocolate chip cookies, I'd be torn. But well, we also have Jean has joined us, Jean and Debbie, and Paul has joined us. I think Amy may be watching us from the airport. I don't think she's on the plane yet. Jay and Carter, as usual, are here. Bruce is here also. He is excited about the chocolate chips as I am. And
Caroline is here. And Amy likes a caramel chocolate chip. Ooh, that would be very good too. Bruce said, did we see David singing the chocolate chip cookie song on TikTok? I have tried to I send my dad TikToks now and again. If my dad really understood TikTok enough to make his own account and his own videos, it could be dangerous, y'all. It could be dangerous.
It could be. There's some hobbies I'm better off not taking up for your sake as well as mine.
I think he could be big if he really.
Maybe I should do that. I also know all the words to one version of Ivan Stravinsky's Skavar, you know, which I also learned from that same folk singer, you know. The sons of the prophet are hardy and bold, and you know, anyway, it goes on and on. That one has infinite verses.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, and then there's Clementine. That's another good one. You can make all the other verses. And
when I was young, my dad used to travel around to all these different folk festivals and music festivals, and he'd bring his auto harp and he'd sit around with his auto harp, and maybe he'd perform randomly and sit around the campfire and sing very loudly and off tune.
Yeah, jam sessions. It was the thing to do, you know. Anyhow.
I have very fond nostalgic
memories. Let's get down to business. Enough of this.
Okay. As you get the screen up, I want to say hi to Pat and Eric and Cindy and Brad. And Amy, of course you want to see and hear all of his all of his songs. He'll break out his auto harp for you for sure.
Maybe I'll start a whatchamacallit channel and
maybe he'll start his own TikTok and we'll share it with y'all so you can hear them all yourself.
Yeah. Now,
all right.
I want to start off by stressing that in case you have any confusion, Sam and I are not economists. We don't play economists on television. And we're going to talk about some economic kind of stuff, and it is for informational and more entertainment purposes. Before you go off and make huge investment decisions on this, you should go find a real economist and talk to them.
Your friendly neighborhood economist.
Yeah, call your friendly neighborhood. And we're going to talk about the Fed. And when we talk about the Fed, in this case, the economic Fed, as opposed to the Feds with the guns, we're talking about which Fed, Sam? The Feds, which ones are we talking about?
The federal bank, the Federal Open Market Committee, specifically.
Yeah, the Reserve.
The Federal Reserve Bank.
And this is a picture of the headquarters of the Federal Reserve. Okay. And
it's very official. It's exactly what I would expect the Fed to look like.
Yeah. And this is sort of our national bank. And what year did it start? Do you remember what year they formed it?
1913, correct?
1913. Why did they create this? Well, before they had the federal bank kind of bringing it all together, there was a lot of craziness in the bank world, and even more. And I think I covered this on one where I talked about the history of inflation. I learned a lot. Prior to the federal bank, there were years with really high inflation and years with deflation, and it was wild. It kind of evened out to zero inflation, but you had wild years where it was high, and then prices, everything would drop, and that was because the money supply and where you can get money was all a mess. So they went off and created this, the Federal National Bank, the Fed, to stabilize and regulate things. And there's a lot of controversies there in a lot of ways, but we won't go into them today. They also have two main goals. If you read all the stuff, there's two things they're supposed to do. They're supposed to control inflation. Sam, do you remember what they're supposed to keep it at?
I believe their goal that they're shooting for is a long-term average of 2%.
Yeah, they're looking to keep inflation at 2%. Why not zero? I don't know. There's some talk about Samuelson's books would go up every year on how much inflation should be, but that's one thing. What's the other thing is full employment. Their goal is to keep people employed. So if there's a lot of unemployment, they're supposed to do things to the economy to get people employed. And if there's high inflation, they're supposed to do things to get it down to around 2. That's the main goals of this federal bank.
Among regulating all of our, the rest.
Oh, there's a long list of other stuff they do, the banks and this, but let's just make it interesting. We could bore you with the other details, but those are the two big things they're chartered with.
Seems like they're doing a bang up job too.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they do. We could do a history of this, and that would be kind of interesting. But when they say we've raised the rates, what rate are they talking about, Sam?
The federal funds rate.
It's the federal funds rate, the rates they talk, when you hear on the news. There's also 2 or 3 other rates. What are some of the other rates?
Well, I mean, it also affects like the discount rate.
There's a rate called the discount rate, which we'll explain in a minute.
Can I have that rate? That sounds like the best rate.
And what other rates do they have? The prime rate. The prime rate is another rate that is out there that is influenced by it, as well as mortgage rates and everything else. But let's start with these two here. Here is this is the Federal Reserve Bank.
I see you've moved on from trying to draw your own buildings.
Yeah, I decided to draw their bill. So this is the Federal Reserve Bank, and these are little banks. This is Bank 1. This is Bank 2. There might be some of the ones in the streets around us. And the bank, sometimes when they take deposits, they lend all this money out, but some of it they don't lend out. These are called the reserves. And the reserves exist in 2 places. Some of it is in literally the cash in their vault, but some of it is on paper, and the reserves for them are actually kept at the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank holds those reserves in their electronic, bank vaults, if you will. And in fact, the Federal Reserve historically has had a minimum reserve you have to have. We're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. But let's say this bank has extra reserves, more than above the amount it's required to keep. And let's say this bank over here needs some. They have a need for some money they want for whatever reason. Well, what they can do is they can borrow it. They can get a loan from the Federal Reserve Bank from this bank's reserves, and the loan comes at that federal rate. The rate we talk about. That's the rate that they're allowed they're encouraged to loan things back and forth. There is another rate, and this Federal Reserve Bank has what they call a discount window. And at the discount window, if it wanted to, this bank could go up and it could borrow money right from the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, the Federal Reserve Bank makes sure the discount window rate is usually higher than the federal rate, but the federal funds rate, I got to make sure I get the funds in my head here. The federal funds rate, just because they want the banks to borrow from each other first. And it's kind of interesting, until recently, they've kept this federal funds rate very close to zero, and they've been raising it. And here is sort of a picture. Up down here is the federal funds rate. It's now up to about 2.25%. And you can see it's come up from next to zero really in the last few months. And this is the window rate, and it's at 2.5%. I got this from the one of the we'll talk about how many different federal banks there are, but this is the St. Louis one. They put out really good pictures, and pictures are always better than just text. So yeah, kind of an idea. This is how, when they're talking about raising the rates, they're talking about this. This rate affects a lot of other rates. It affects, well, and this is sort of, I got the, this is how we unleash it. This is the federal funds rate over history. This is 1955. You can see this is 1980. Notice how high it's gone. It's up to like, ooh, how did I switch colors? It's up to like 17% here plus in 1980. Remember the Jimmy Carter years when inflation was crazy? The Fed raised rates through the roof to basically get money out of the economy. And then it's come back down, and now we're going back up again. If you look at how this rate drives a lot of other rates, one of them is CD rates. This is, if you can see it, there's a red line here and a blue line. The blue line is the federal funds rate. The red line is a 6-month CD rate. And you can see they follow pretty closely. But think about it. If mortgage rates are linked to this, mortgage rates have gone up significantly since they've done this. You know, right now we have high inflation. A lot of people are out there buying houses and stuff. If you go out and all of a sudden the rates are higher to get your home loan, are you more likely to buy a house? It's probably gonna calm down the housing market. Same way with credit cards. If credit card rates go up higher, you're gonna pay more. So the idea of raising rates is to make borrowing more costly in the United States, so we as citizens borrow less. And inflation partially is caused by having more money, having lots of money and fewer goods, and the demand for the goods go up. If you could drive down the demand, now we can reduce the inflation rate. And that's kind of what most of this is aimed about, as a way to get less spending in the economy. And that's one of the things they can do. Now, this is kind of interesting, and I just want to go over this briefly. How are we doing for time? Yeah. Let's say you're a bank and you've just taken $1 million in deposits. Reserves are what, Sam, again?
Reserves are, if you've got $1 million in deposits, reserves are, the proportion of that the bank must keep and can't lend out, that they must keep on hand, to avoid like a rush on the bank, to make sure that
they want to make sure you go down to the bank, you got money, that you're not lending every last dime. And they've set that rate over time. It used to be something like 10% or 5 to 10%. And this is another way to get money out of the economy. The Fed can tell banks they need to keep more reserves, and that will mean they'll be bringing money back in and there'll be less circulating. That's another way they have to reduce the demand and inflation. Anybody want to guess what the current reserve rate is? If you're out there, get a number in mind, tell your spouse, write it down on a piece of paper. Because near as I can tell right now, reserves are 0%. On March 26th of 2020, they set the ratio to 0. They did this when 2020, we had the market crash, and by eliminating the reserves, they encouraged banks to lend out the money to get more money going in the economy and get things. And I found this.
When you told me that was my face, my jaw went.
Yeah, that surprised you when I mentioned it. I wish you could have seen when we did
My
this.
jaw dropped, and then I did a fierce Google search trying to figure out that can't be right, that it must have gone up. But as far as I can tell, it is still at zero.
You
That
should have
sounds
seen you should
crazy.
have seen the look on Kristen's face. I wish I could have captured it. But this is right off the Federal Reserve website, and there's no sign there that they've changed it yet. And so this is to excite the economy. And one thing they could do is raise it some to get money out. Why they're not, I don't know. But this is another interesting piece. Now, when we talk about the Fed, there are actually 12 federal banks spread around the country. Each is in charge of a region. And they used to be more independent as the world we got bigger and more, and things got more interactive. They've kind of working more together, but there are 12 banks. You can go on to each one. They all put out their own reports. Part of their job is to give us information and things like that. The Federal Reserve itself,
Whoa.
Federal Reserve itself has 7 governors.
Are these the first?
1913, these are the
Whoa.
original Federal Reserve governors from that day.
That is
And
wild. That pictures.
these are the governors now. These are the 7 that are in charge right now. And if you do a comparison, you can see that since 1913, we've got considerably more diverse,
They also decided they could smile a little bit.
Yeah, some of them, you're right. I never know. These guys I don't think these guys have smiled in their life, but these are the folks we have now. And anybody want to guess? Some of you might be out there saying, boy, this is great. I wish I could get a job. Because you see, when a governor, there are 7 of them. When you're appointed, you have 14 years. Your job's guaranteed for a 14-year period, and then you have to stop. Okay, so it's a 14-year job. Every 2 years they elect a new one. The president appoints them. The Senate has to vote and confirm them. So they have a very slow turnover rate, one every 2 years. On February 1st, I think, of the even year where you start. But anyway, anyone, so you might think, well, I wish I could get one of these jobs. Anyone want to guess what a Federal Reserve governor earns? And the number is, at least as of 2019, they're voted actually by Congress, is $183,100. That's the salary of a Federal Reserve governor.
Except was way off.
Except for one, this is, what's his name again, Sam?
Jerome Powell.
Jerome Powell. He is the chairman. He's the one that gets up and talks. They have 8 meetings a year where they get together. He talks. He's the one that talks to Congress. And they're really good at saying things and you can't really make out what they meant, or they're very careful how they talk. He actually makes $203,500. So he gets paid a little more to be chairman. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to know what these guys that are determining our financial future, what they get paid, and you can decide if it's too much or too little. This is 8 times a year they get together, and there's actually 12 people that make up this board, this federal, the Federal Open Market Committee. There's the 7 governors plus 5 of the presidents of the banks, one of which has to be New York. Somehow this is their meeting. They must all invite friends because there's more than 12 here. I guess it's such a fascinating meeting. Everybody wants to come. But this is the meeting that occurs. This was like June or earlier this year, the actual picture of the meeting. And so that's a little bit of trivia there. We're going to finish off with a little bit on inflation. Sam, what was this a picture of?
This is a picture of the change in annual inflation rate between first quarter of 2020 and first quarter of 2022 by country.
So this is how much in number, in multiples it went up. Israel had about 25 times higher inflation. If it was 1%, it would be 25% than they did 2 years earlier. You can see Spain was maybe at 12 or 13. The U.S. is, where are we here? We're here somewhere.
Right between South Korea and Luxembourg.
Oh,
Below Turkey.
yeah, there we are. There's the U.S. So some people we're kind of in the middle of the pack. Some people have it worse. Sam found this diagram. This is a pretty cool one because we think about inflation. We often think about our country, but if you look at inflation worldwide, what is it telling us?
Well, it's telling us that the U.S. is not the only country right now that's dealing with an inflationary event. When you look across the world, there's definitely countries that are predicted by the end of 2022 to do, to be dealing much worse, dealing with inflation that's much worse than ours. But even if you just look at Europe, Europe looks like they're going to be dealing with inflation that is going to be very similar to ours. So this looks like it is more than just a United States issue, that this is a global issue.
Russia's expected to have 20 to 50%, maybe twice our inflation. Some South American countries, I forget which ones these are, that's 500% inflation they expect to see. But they kind of always have that. But here's one thing I found interesting is some countries, for instance, Southeast Asia has less than 5%. So China, Australia, Indonesia, they're actually expected to have less inflation. So it's an interesting world now, how we have such big changes in inflation. And we just hope that our federal board of governors know what they're doing when they're running all those little things and increasing rates here and there. And they're a smart bunch of people, but it is a difficult situation. Sam, do you think demand is mostly being driven by, all the money we pumped in back in the COVID days? We printed a lot of checks. We gave a lot of money away. We flooded a lot of money into the economy. Is that the main reason? Are there other reasons?
Well, I think that after doing a lot of research for this happy half hour, I think that the reason that we're dealing with our current inflationary environment is not easily explainable. And I think that we could be looking, it depends on who you talk to. I think that you could be looking at some of that, but I think that it also has a lot to do probably with our supply chain issues, with the war in Ukraine, and with somewhat with the issues. We're having they call it the Great Resignation, but we're having a great shift in the way that the world of employment looks today.
Everybody quit their job, and if you need to hire somebody back, you got to pay more.
Mm-hmm. So
and
there's
Ukraine, both oil and to an extent food. The grain center of the country, of the world, almost the amount of grain they put out, all interrupted.
Yeah, I was reading a lot about how the Ukraine and Russia conflict is affecting things like fertilizer. It goes beyond oil. Something as simple as fertilizer is affecting the whole global economy. So I think that it speaks more to maybe just us putting a lot of money into the economy. But again, I'm not an economist and I don't know what all the answers are. But what I've realized from doing this research is that what has caused this is nuanced and not simple. I don't think that there's a simple explanation for why we're here.
Well, We are at the top of the hour. I'd love to wax poetically on the Federal Reserve even longer if I could, or sing the chocolate chip cookie song. But a couple of things, an offer. If you would like, we do have inflation in your retirement. Are you prepared for rising cost? If you will, I think Kristen will put the instructions in there, but you can go to carolinaretirementplanners.com and say, hey, send me a copy, or put it in the notes here. Remember too, if you are a guest, my clients all know how to get in touch with it. But if you're a guest and have questions of your own, you can go to that site, give us a call on that number, or go to carolina15.com and go right online and book a 15-minute phone call just to answer any questions you may have. And you get a copy of this, let us know. We'll drop one in the mail to you. So we have probably one more thing to do. Boy, we're at the top of the hour. What's our, I know there's something else. What am I missing here, Sam? Oh, the wine drawing. Yeah.
All right. So each week we raffle off 2 bottles of wine delivered directly to your door from Fermental Bottle Shop. Yes. Thank you, Kristen. And
I'm getting really excited about this part.
I know, this part's so fun.
Actually, we can all come back on now. They got that.
It never gets old. It never gets old. And to enter each week, we'll put out a little event notification on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you just say that you're coming. And if you are not on Facebook, but if you follow our email, if you're on our email list, you just respond to the email we send out each week, and we'll get you in here too. All right. So our winner of 2 bottles of wine delivered directly to your door this week is Priscilla and Eric C. So congratulations,
Woo!
Priscilla and Eric.
Congratulations.
You are our wine winners this week. And to everybody else who did not win, please continue to enter. We love to give away wine, and we will continue to do so.
And we will see you all next Thursday, as usual, at 4:30 for the next version of our happy half hour. Hope you're all enjoying it, and stay cool. It'll cool off eventually. And those of you in the mountains or far away in cool places, I envy you.
All right. Cheers, y'all.
Bye.
Cheers.